This is a story from the Time for Kids magazine. Zoo Story. What happens when a fierce hurricane nearly destroys a zoo? Hurricane Andrew was a devastating natural disaster for South Florida. In terms of property damage, it is one of the worst calamities ever to hit the United States. When Andrew swept ashore with wind gusts of 175 miles per hour, thousands of people lost their homes. The storm also nearly destroyed Miami's Metro Zoo, home to thousands of wild animals. Setting their own losses aside, 100 dedicated men and women worked frantically to take care of the needs of the dazed and helpless animals roaming through the wreckage of the zoo. For some creatures whose habitats were destroyed, survival was a race against time. Saving the koalas. The zoo's three koalas lost their only source of food, a eucalyptus grove, and the roof of their air-conditioned enclosure. They were suffering in dangerously high heat and humidity. Here is a picture of a Metro Zoo worker, Ron McGill, who's surveying the damage to the zoo by Hurricane Andrew. It was very important to get them to another facility immediately, said Ron McGill, a zoo employee. We called Busch Gardens in Tampa, the closest zoo that has koalas, but we had the problem of getting them there fast. After he made a radio appeal, a private pilot came to the rescue. He got permission from the National Guard to have a runway cleared of debris at Tamami Airport. Then he loaded the koalas into his small plane and was able to evacuate them to a temporary and safe new home. You shouldn't have to wait for a natural catastrophe for these things to happen, said McGill, but it shows that a lot of good will come of this. A community comes together. After Andrew hit, the area had to deal with looting, food and water shortages, and the misery of 250,000 people left homeless. The hasty cleanup of Metro Zoo emerged as one of the brightest examples of public generosity in the face of a disaster. With its soaring aviary and sleek monorail, Metro Zoo had been a source of civic pride for Miamians. Zoo staff took steps in advance to try to mitigate damage the hurricane might cause. These efforts included drastically trimming trees to reduce the number of broken limbs. They sheltered all flamingos, storks, and cranes in the zoo's concrete restrooms. Despite these measures, Andrew would not be denied. Exhibit roofs peeled off while uprooted trees and trailers tore through the air like missiles. They demolished chain link fences and freed an antelope herd, a gibbon, a tapir, hundreds of birds, and several 500-pound Galapagos tortoises. We had to get a forklift to put the tortoises back, said McGill. Here is a picture of Ron McGill as he tries to recapture some of the exotic birds that escaped during the storm. Another casualty was the zoo's spectacular aviary, containing 320 birds of 80 different species. The 60-foot-high netting roof collapsed, crushing many of the birds and leaving others at the mercy of 150-mile-per-hour winds. Fortunately, the rhino and giraffes were uninjured and stayed in their torn enclosures. They probably felt more secure in a familiar place, explains McGill. The animals that might have posed a threat to humans, lions, tigers, bears, and gorillas, rode out Andrew's high winds behind the steel grates and poured concrete of their night houses. The zoo's fatality list was miraculously short. 3 antelope, an ostrich that was hit by flying debris, a small gibbon, and many birds. When I first got here, said McGill, I sat down and cried. I wonder if we would ever be able to rebuild. Answering the call for help. Reacting to calls for help, other zoos started sending specialized foods for the animals. Veterinarians offered to administer care, and many people donated chainsaws to cut fallen trees. Here is a picture of McGill as he checks to see if the elephant has been injured. Zoos also delivered meat for the big cats and fish for the birds. An hour after McGill appealed on TV for refrigeration help, a man lent the zoo 2 large refrigerated trucks. "We've gotten such an overwhelming response to our request," McGill said. "I don't know if I got more emotional over the tragedy of the loss or over the outpouring of support." Still, he said, "While we all love animals, we need to take care of people first. I don't want anyone to bring us water if it takes away from a family that needs it." McGill was hopeful about the animals' future. He told the story of the workers who came across a tiny miracle in the wreckage. There lay a baby yellowback duiker, a small, now motherless antelope born during the storm and still alive. They promptly dubbed it Andrew. "In the midst of the destruction, here was this new life," said McGill. "It was like a ray of hope, and we knew as long as we didn't lose hope, we'd be okay."